Okay, I'm going to call this April 5th meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Mr. Langwick, was there proper proof of notification?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum present too. I think we've got Mr. Seep. He's online, and then in the room we've got Gentis, Mr. Brewer, Ms. Luck, Mr. Turk, and myself. So we're just missing Mr. Cooey. Maybe he'll just show up a little late here. Agenda item number 3, agenda approval. So today we've got a 22-point agenda, and we've had a request from Ms. Dowdna to move item number 19 up to between number 4 and number 5. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda with that change. Motion by Brewer, second by Luck. All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries. We have an approved agenda. Agenda item number 4, previous meeting minutes. So I have a correction because I was the secretary at the chair and the secretary at the last meeting. And when I was doing the minutes, I thought it was a mistake in the March 18th one. I thought maybe I'd left it from a previous version. Item number 4 in the minutes should say moved by Cooey to postpone approving the minutes of the March 1st, 2022 meeting. It just says approve, and we did not approve them. So with that change to the March 18th minutes, also noting that we have a redacted version of the closed session portion of the March 18th minutes, not in our iPad folders, but I emailed those to everyone. I think that was yesterday. So we're approving 3 sets of minutes simultaneously, March 1st, March 18th, 2 versions of March 18th. A motion by Luck, second by Turk. Okay, any discussion on those? All those in favor of approving all 3 sets of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. Okay, that carries. We have all those approved. Okay, so item number 19, resolution for unplanned use of Fund 75 for a skid steer purchase fair.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to approve reallocation of up to $35,000 from Fund 75 to purchase a skid steer to share between Fairgrounds and Buildings and Grounds Committee. Background on this item: at this time, the Fairgrounds uses the skid steer until April until November, with Buildings and Grounds Department using it in December to March. This varies on snowfall. There are some concerns with equipment issues, and that is that the replacement unit would be bigger in the areas that need to be accessed and worked within. Randy Nelson and Buford Marshall met with several dealers, and they confirmed that the newer units for 2023 would be a bit bigger, hindering the work for both departments and for their uses for it. The proposal would be that both departments share in the purchase of the unit, including maintenance and repairs. The numbers listed below will be given an idea of the cost between the new and used. Please note the numbers are range until a range unit. Full specs of the unit are listed in the bidding process, and the municipal discount would be applied. The numbers there are listed out. We do have Director Dowdna here, as well as Maintenance Supervisor Nelson, to further elaborate on this item.
Oh, they're looking for a motion to approve reallocation of up to $35,000 from Fund 75 for this purchase.
Oh, I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't quite, I know skid loaders because I used them a lot. So I know about the width, so you can't get the same width, and how, it says that it isn't going to work. I was confused by that.
Yeah, please. I certainly are more in tune to skid steers than myself.
Mr. Nelson, I think it just got to go, it's got to be pulled towards you.
You hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay, the new ones, or the used ones that you see up there on the board. Now, can you hear me? They were a little bit wider, about 5 or 6 inches wider. We could use them, but there's a couple spots that myself and Junior wouldn't be able to get into in some of the buildings. So then we got looking at the new ones. We can order a brand new one, the exact same model that we have now. Again, Gonna be exact same width, same size, same motor, everything. We're looking for just a plain Jane, none of the accessories. The only thing it would have different this year would be it'd have heat and it would have a door if you order a new one. Otherwise, everything else is the same on the current one that we have now. And you're looking between the two prices we got from Simpsons and Kenneke's. The lowest right now with the discount, for municipal discount, it looks like it's gonna be right around the 36,000 mark. And that comes with the bucket and the forks.
Sure.
Yep, go ahead, Ms. Luck.
So the 35,000, what was that originally earmarked for that we're spending it on this now?
That was for the lights project, and I'll let Carla further define that.
So when we requested to have those funds borrowed, we talked about replacing and putting some of the electrical lines underground and then replacing some of the grandstand lights. And we've done the majority of that work. You'll see in the agenda that we have a couple of other items for lighting, but that remaining money is what's left because there's not going to be enough funds to finish the large project that's out on the track. That would be more money. So we just used it towards the area that would be more of a necessity given the activities that are done in front of the grandstands.
So the 35,000 is what's left from the money that was allocated to do the electrical work?
Yes, yes. We do. Currently, we lease it, and so does the Property and Grounds Committee as well. Right, so we would work together and then just create a lease that we know that we would both jointly use the piece of equipment and then share the expense of the maintenance of it and any repairs or new tires or anything that needs to be done with it.
Mr. Chair, one more question. How much is the current lease? What is it costing us per year? total?
So we're charged, I think roughly, the last few years, we've been charged $1,000 a year, and I believe Randy has been charged $1,200 a year. And that's been, so since I started in 2015, we've spent about $4,500, I believe, on the skid steer alone, just for my department.
$1,000 to lease it for the whole year? Or was it
That's what-
2,200 for the whole year?
2,200,
For the
yeah.
whole year.
So my department's charged 1,000, yeah, and his
That's a
is
really good deal.
1,200.
Mr. Chairman,
That's been for the entire amount from 2015 through 2021.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. C.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the net difference in the cost of the lease at the end of the lease compared to the purchase price on this new item?
You mean it's cost them $4,500 since they started leasing in 2015, so it would be 37,000 minus 4,500? Just for your department?
That's just for the fairgrounds.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've asked this question, but why can't we lease a skid steer? So they only have one skid steer that they allow you to lease? You can't get a smaller one?
The skid steer we have right now is the correct size that we've been using. It's just, we've been using the same one for, at least 12 years.
And have you asked about just purchasing that?
It's old, it's got a lot of leaks, it's got a lot of repairs that need to be done to it. So we're probably gonna get into some cost if we do purchase a used one. So that's why we're looking at getting the prices on used ones and new ones.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
I don't think I got a clear answer. Maybe I did and didn't understand it. I would like to know the total cost of the lease over a period of 10 years, which is probably the life of the skid steer, as opposed to the direct outlay purchase cost
So
to the
see
county.
if I can help understand this. So, Mr. Nelson, you lease it for $1,200 a year, and Ms. Doudney, you lease it for $10,000 I'm sorry, 1,000, so that would be
Correct.
10,000 over 10 years and 12,000 over 10 years, so 22,000 total, to answer his question. So over a 10-year period, the cost would be $22,000, Mr. Seat.
So that's what you're paying presently on the current piece of equipment, or is that on what you're projecting on the new purchase, on the new lease? If it
No,
were,
those figures were for the current pieces of equipment, correct? You each lease a skid
It's the
steer?
same.
Oh, it's the same one. You both contribute
Right.
2,200 a year toward
Right.
one skid steer.
Mr. Chair,
so
who pays
so
for the
my
current maintenance?
Hold on, Mr. Seat.
Who pays the current maintenance if it breaks now?
It's a shared, well, I think it's a shared expense between the departments and Simpsons, because that's where we get it from, but Randy.
So you lease it if they don't cover the cost of,
The only thing
Maintain.
the only thing we cover is tires and, repair of tires and fuel is what we pay right now.
so if it breaks,
this
they
lease.
pay it.
But we don't know if that lease is gonna change. We don't know if those dollars are gonna go up. So
well,
you never know.
Mr.
We
Chair,
don't know.
Let Mr. Nelson, let's let Mr. Nelson finish his thought here.
So we don't know after this whole issue with this previous lawnmower thing, if they're gonna raise the price on our, he could do this from year to year. It could just keep going up. We don't know that now, so.
Okay, Mr. Seat.
yes, Mr. Nelson, I'm interested in, cash flow for the county, and I'm interested in what, in the end of say 10 years, what this is going to cost the county if we lease this new piece of equipment, as opposed to, and what the difference would be between that and the purchase price of the piece of equipment. Do you have those figures?
I guess we really can't give you those figures, Supervisor Seat, just because we don't have an extended lease agreement with the current company. So it goes year by year. So initially it was at 500 and then it's gone up to 1,000. Randy's is 1,200. The concern that we share as a joint user of this piece of equipment is that it is an older model. It's been the same model, I believe, that's been at both properties for a minimum of 12 years. There is some extended issue. There are some issues with the maintenance of it and the problems that we foresee happening. And our concern is that if we wait, the newer units that have to be purchased that are going to be coming in to the market are not going to give us access to the areas that we need. And that would pose issues for us where we use them in the barns and in the buildings, particularly when we're using it for storage in the fall and in the spring. We have very limited space to be able to maneuver these campers and trailers into small areas. So we'd like to keep just a very simple, basic model. It's not have to be big, large, with all these bells and whistles. And that's pretty much what we've gotten from these dealers. Simpson being one of them is what we're looking at. That's why we're bringing that forward for this to be considered.
Okay, so we've had quite a few questions asked and we've heard several answers. Does someone want to make a motion to move forward with this?
Well, I guess that would be up to the current dealer, and then that would also, then I guess, depend on what they would want to charge us.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I didn't hear the question.
If we knew what we were going to be charged in the new leasing, and they haven't asked that question. So I think we ought to ask that question before we decide.
I got one thing.
Can I add?
Mr. Nelson wants to answer that and then, hold on just a second.
Just a conversation I had with McFarland's out of Sauk City and Kenneckey's. I did ask them about leasing a brand new one. Kennecke said that they're looking at 5,000 a year to lease for theirs. And then, McFarland said that they lease right now to UW-Madison, and theirs is 10,000 a year for a brand new unit. But they get that unit back every year. They get a brand new unit every single year, and then they start all over again. So those are just two numbers for leasing. So, and I'm guessing that the current one we use now, if we ask for a new unit, they're gonna ask the same thing. They're gonna ask more money.
But we haven't asked them.
No, not yet.
I think we ought to ask them.
And
I think Simpson's has been giving us a deal for many years on this lease arrangement, and I think we ought to have the courtesy to ask them if they would continue that for us. I realize that somebody mentioned the mower thing. Well, I hope that one thing doesn't lead to the other. I hope that that's a separate deal. This is a new deal. But I want to know what they would charge us if we updated that unit. And I think it's only fair. I mean, they've been providing this machine for many years. And obviously at a level far below what the market demands.
If Ms. Gentis wants to say something, then I want to say something, then let's try to figure out what to do.
well, I think they should come back with more answers, and I'd like to see something that isn't just a 1-year lease, to see what it would be like for a 5-year lease and what they would project for costs for that, because it's hard to budget and figure things out with a 1-year lease.
Okay, thanks. And my comment was going to be, I don't have so much opposition to the idea of purchasing a piece of equipment ourselves. I think it's a good idea to research the leases first, of course, but I think more of my issue is bigger picture. We have a lot of different departments coming to reallocate Fund $75, and they're coming on a monthly basis and sometimes twice a month. And to me, it seems like it's hard to, this is kind of the issue. I always felt like I had a hard time with making commitments to capital projects before. They were onesies and twosies instead of looking at the whole picture. And so if we're not going to use what we already planned 175 for at the fairgrounds, it seems to me that we should have, predetermined times once a year, a couple, I don't know what the frequency should be, where we look at the whole big picture together, so that folks like Ms. Dowd and Mr. Nelson can submit ideas, and other folks can submit ideas for reallocating the funds. And I have supported doing this in the past, but I'm starting to reach a level of discomfort. So I think from what I'm hearing, there might be an interest in a motion to postpone. Does someone want to make that motion? Okay, a motion by Luck to postpone action on this item, second by Brewer. Any discussion on that?
And Mark, I will reiterate what Mark just said, because at the end of a lease, you have nothing except goodwill you purchase perhaps from the provider. So, but if you purchase, at least then you have a used skid steer to sell. So,
okay,
good thoughts.
let's go ahead and take a vote on this. All those in favor of the motion to postpone, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. So thank you for coming today, and we'll look forward to hearing what further research turns up. Okay, so the next portion of the agenda is new, and so I'm going to read off the entire portion, including the part in italics. So this portion is called consent items. Item number 5, 11-year write-off on unpaid taxes, treasurer. Number 6, write-off stale checks, treasurer. 7, resolution for planned use of Fund 92 for Sheriff's Department new car purchase, sheriff. 8, resolution for planned use of Fund 75 for Fairgrounds electrical and lighting fair. Consent items are procedurally necessary and routine in nature. The committee may take action to approve consent items in one motion. Any committee member may object to a consent vote and request individual items or all items removed from a consent vote. I did ask Mr. Langreck and Mr. Wendell if they could look into this so that we could hopefully speed up our meetings and focus on the bigger issues instead of the smaller ones. Some of the advice we got legally was to make sure that all of this is placed into the record. That would be our minutes, so that it's really clear what we did approve. So the beginning of each of these items, so I'm just going to number 5, the agenda item cover. This language, the recommended language on the cover sheet, Ms. Dole, it says vote to approve canceling of tax certificates that remain unpaid for 11 years. I'm just going to read each of these off so we know what we're approving, and we can talk about if anyone wants to pull an item or not. Number 6, the write-off of stale checks. Vote to approve canceling of stale checks that have been outstanding for more than 1 year as of January 1st, 2022. So these are for checks dated from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. And then item number 7, the Fund 92 for the squad car says motion to approve expenses of up to $127,000 to purchase and equip new sheriff's vehicles. And then finally, item number 8, just read the first sentence of that paragraph. Motion to approve allocation of funds from Fund 75 for continued upgrades and repairs for electrical and lights on the fairgrounds in the amount of $14,585.79. So assuming that all would be put in the record, if we make one vote on all of this, would any member of the Finance and Personnel Committee like to have one or more of those 4 items pulled for discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Gentis, go ahead.
Okay, I read all these and I understand them, but after we have the motion, we can't ask any question or something on one of them if we want to know.
If you'd like to, just let us know and we will pull that item for discussion.
But it can still be a consent among the whole thing.
We'll just handle it separately. We'll make it its own motion. Mr. Seep?
yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to have a little more understanding of number 8, and I would like to have that removed from the approval motion.
Okay, so we'll remove number 8. So I'm looking for a motion to approve items 5, 6, and 7 as I read.
I have a question on number 7.
Okay, so we'll pull number 7.
Motion to
No.
approve 5 and 6.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
This is a practice try. We're just trying this out for the first time. It's okay. So motion by Cooey, second by Luck. All those in favor of approving items number 5 and 6 as I read those, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 7, resolution for planned use of Fund 92 for Sheriff's Department new car purchase. And I think Mr. Brewer had a question on that, so I'll go ahead and.
I just want clarification. This is a planned expense,
That's what. that
expenditure, and
means,
it's,
yep.
this is
It
what
was
we're using,
budgeted.
the budget, right?
Okay, so let's get a motion for that one.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brewer,
I'll second it.
second by Gentis. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 8, resolution for planned use of Fund 75 for fairgrounds, electrical, and lighting. And I believe that was Mr. Seep who had a question.
Yes, how does this relate to the planned expenditure for the skid loader?
So the funds that we asked for the skid loader had this deducted from it, and the remaining amount was 35,000. So these funds are available in Fund 75 for us to use.
So if you buy a skid loader, you still got $35,000 left?
No, if we do this project right here, that is agenda item number 8, we have roughly $35,000 left that we requested to use for the purchase of a skid loader.
You said, no, you don't have that left if you do the project.
Mr. Sheep, this is
Yeah.
for lighting. They want to spend $14,000. If we approve this, they will have $35,000 left over, and what it's going to be spent on has not been determined. They're interested in buying a skid loader with it, but we did not approve that.
Yes,
So
I
this is
understand.
This is $14,000 for lighting. Doesn't really have anything to do with the skid loader.
Okay, and it has nothing to do with the $35,000 that was allocated.
Except that it results in 35,000 if we authorize it today. Oh, the total amount allocated is 120 some grand, something like that, I believe, in that ballpark. They've already spent a portion of that. They'd like to spend 14 grand more.
Understand.
Okay, let's get a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Luck,
Second,
second by Cooey. All those in favor of approving this expenditure, please say aye.
I,
aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that carries. Agenda item, we'll move to the administrative reports section. And Mr. Langreich, I'm wondering if we can you're probably going to just work through items 9 through 18 all at once. Is that right?
That is the intentions, Mr. Chair.
Why don't you take it away, and I'm not going to read through it because I'll probably just be repeating what you might already be saying.
Excellent. Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion, if given, would be guidance that would be germane to the items for the administrator report today. You'll see that at the bottom on, you'll have an agenda item 18, which you can make comments again and give guidance. Background on this item is in efforts to maximize use of committee meeting time, empower administration, and provide desired oversight transparency on county business. This finance and personnel agenda has been composed to streamline actions and prioritize focus by presenting items in 3 major sections. A consent agenda, seen as routine procedurally necessary to and aligning with previous decisions with policy. Administrative reports, seen as notification of actions that administration is taking, information that administration should be seeking, and future solutions that administration is developing for committee consideration. And then the final section, which we actually took at the front end, which was action items that need committee focused discussion and decisions. So again, and this is kind of a preemptive in trying to formulate how we're going to fit a lot into standing committees. So this is a pilot, if you will, attempt. These administrative reports cover a variety of administrative actions, information seeking, and solution development. The reports are intended to provide transparency to the committee and allow the committee to offer guidance by motion on topics covered. And Mr. Chair, I would defer to yourself if you want to stop us at any point to take questions. Otherwise, we'll continue rolling. First item that we're going to talk about today is going to be a review of 2022 employee benefits package and employee questionnaire. In your packets that were electronic and on the website, you'll see an item number 9, and I will let Assistant Dull talk through the presentation slides that she's prepared here today.
Okay, so we did an employee survey. There was 352 employees. We could only email out to so many, but we did get 114 back, 32.3%, which you can see average is the 20 to 30%. So we were a little above average, which we're really happy with. 50% is considered good. So we sent out the 155 by email. We got a lot of good feedback. As you can see, we did not display all those, but we'll go through some highlights of it. So when we asked them to rank what was most important to them of, I believe it was 7 different items, what ranked number 1 the most, of course, we probably knew was going to be compensation. Health insurance was right in second there. Then when they ranked number 2, what came in highest there, and they were really tied close, of course, was health insurance and compensation. They just switched back and forth just a little bit, so they were still ranking high, 1 and 2 on all of those that they rated. Number 3 was time off, then ranked much higher than the rest, as you can see. So compensation, health insurance, and then people appreciated their ability to take time off, whether it be sick time, comp time, and vacation. Then number 4, they liked the flexibility. Also ranking right up there was the time off, but they were all in the 20%, but that came in 4th. 5th came in time off, still ranking right up there, 22.47%, and communication was not too far behind though. So they liked the communication was important to them. Dental insurance, amazingly enough, came in 6th. Different than your health insurance, still at 25%, although communication was still ranking right up there behind it. And then coming in 7th is 45.45% was recognition. So, you know, it's important, but I think I did that wrong, didn't I? Yep. Actually should be dental insurance and communication again. So. And then we asked the question, are you satisfied with your compensation? These were just yes or no answers on this one. They didn't have to rank them down. The highest was they were satisfied, 35.5%, neutral, then somewhat dissatisfied, being very satisfied was the least. I guess we're probably not surprised by that. How satisfied are you with your benefits? Mostly neutral. Some were a little more unsatisfied. So not happy, not sad, but a little more on the happy side. Then we questioned about the flex medical. Currently, the flex medical is you put money in, you present your receipts, you get reimbursed. We asked how many participated in this program. 25% currently participate. So then we ask if you had the card where you actually use it like a debit card, would you participate? And so that come up to 27.6% would use it if they were offered the card. So 2.6% more would use the card instead of the reimbursement. And then we asked, how do you feel about your work environment? And this was, again, the dissatisfied, somewhat satisfied, neutral. Satisfied, mostly. Neutral's up there, and very satisfied is up there. Does your manager communicate professionally? This was a yes or no, and 90% said yes, they do. And then do you feel appreciated by your supervisors? 81%, or superiors, sorry. 81%, and I think they're looking at this as maybe like the management, maybe a little county board as superiors, and 81% felt they were appreciated. And then considering your work environment, would you recommend to your family, friends, relatives to apply here? And somewhat likely, 35% would recommend to someone else to work here. And how do you feel about the county's growth as a whole? And I kind of meant this more as an intent of where you thought the county was going, but we did get a lot of good feedback. Again, you're going to beat up the grocery store thing. We need a grocery store. We need little mom and pop shops. And then we got into some really interesting questions here. What do you consider the biggest value of your employment? So flexibility was mentioned 15 times in 85 of the comments. Of course, close to home was right up there. Community and helping your community was up there. Other things mentioned several times was people and wages. There was several comments that said when years ago insurance used to be the biggest value in your benefits for the county, and they weren't quite feeling that feeling anymore. And then Concerning compensation, what would you like to see changed? Out of the 75 comments, 64 of them were wages and pay. And I don't think we're surprised by that. They feel salary should be competitive with the neighboring counties. And then the wages need to be kept up with inflation, and I think we probably all agree on that. We were kind of a little stalled there on our wages or increases. 23%, again, coming back. We need state insurance and or lower deductible. Of course, you can see other things increased. Step increases, cost of living, wages. Step increases going with evaluation. So when you get evaluation, maybe consider a step increase, but I think that may go kind of hand in hand with that we're not increasing, so it was their recommendation of possibly getting something moving. Hours per week, because I think we're a lot between 35 and 40. So maybe if everybody was at the same 40 hours per week, then your income's kind of comparable as it is. You comparing 35 to 40. And probationary hours is because there's 3 months probation some places and 6 months at others. And people are kind of feeling like departments are maybe pegged against each other. And then concerning benefits, what would you like to see changed? 84 comments were sent back, and I don't think we're surprised about the 100 times that health insurance or lower deductible was mentioned. 19 times it was mentioned to go back to state insurance. 17 times was more vacation or pay increases for your longevity people. There was a lot of feel like after you get up there about 15 years, you're not seeing any improvement in that. More competitive wages, vision insurance, flex cards, employee assistant program was mentioned a couple times. And then the sick time maxed out. There's other places, other employers that after you get maxed out on that, you do get a payout. So that being that the people that may use their sick time up very quickly may now consider keeping it a little longer to get paid out as some benefit to keeping it and not using it up. And here I think we're going to get into some really broad explanations. And number 14, what needs to be improved. There was 71 responses. Of course, again, 24% is insurance or state insurance. 30 is better wages. Other is better training. Centralized HR, better monitoring of managers to make sure they're doing their jobs. I think we were starting to get a little more feedback on that kind of stuff. Time clocks was mentioned a couple times, as you can see, because of they feel there may be some abuse in the honor system. Employees not being held accountable. And then we continue. Team building, both departmental and interdepartmental. Reverse what the county pays for insurance deductible, so the county pay their $1,000 first, and then the employee kick in their $2,000. Allow for payout for vacation and sick time was mentioned again. More vacation for longevity employees. So we're starting to see a trend here, the same things over and over showing up. Treating all departments the same, and maybe that could be the 35 to 40 hours, but I think there could be some other things embedded in this. Better communication mentioned several times. Pine Valley was mentioned. Their daytime CNAs deserve more pay, where they feel the nighttime maybe getting more pay just to get people to work nights, but they feel the CNAs on an activity level or care level are doing more than the nighttime people. And there also was mentioned that they felt the people with 1.5 years are getting too much vacation and encouraging too many missed days. And then we continue. So Clint's doing an excellent job.
That was in Cheryl's review or
Yeah.
something.
It was
Or evaluation.
Yeah.
There's 6 months. Evaluation's coming up.
Yeah. Do you think there needs to be some review of the call-in and temp casuals and how many hours they're working and what they're getting paid? I think there's a little bit behind the scenes here with that the call-ins may be getting more per hour And that may be getting a little more descriptive in some of the other things. Several comments about the call-ins and their age and the fact that they may be under a certain age where they can't run some of the other equipment, so the full-timers have to stop what they're doing to go to work with the call-ins so that they can possibly run, say, a lift, but yet those call-ins are getting paid more money to do things that they can't do, that other people have to drop what they're doing to help with. There was unpleasant interactions between clerical staff is fairly common. That was mentioned. I didn't put that department in there. Someone was very thankful that we're doing a survey, hoping this will contribute to some change coming down the road. Some frustration with management, including directors, managers, not being held accountable and then not dealing with ongoing issues. I think it's been in more detail. It was addressed to possibly management and things still not changing. Then number 15, what would list any or all improvements you would like to see. We had 68 comments. 19 of them were staffing, overstaffing, understaffing, value of staffing, staffing challenges, benefits again mentioned, surprise. Better insurance, state insurance was mentioned, wages and pay again were mentioned. I think we're starting to see a trend here. Others was managers and management. Computer programs outdated, slow, and failed to load properly. Find grant writers. Update filing systems. Files are too hard to find. I think that's going to have to be looked at more departmentally than just in general. Accountability again, it looks like in some management cases not being followed up on. Communication improving between since Clint and Derek have taken over. Another kudos. So there's a good comment there. Pine Valley's doing a great job. Another good comment there. County board supervisors need to visit the departments to find out what they're doing. So hopefully, a really good idea, but hopefully now with this blending of departments, maybe that'll happen a little more, but it's still maybe something we should visit. Combining of handbooks so that we don't have addendums all over the place and that we're more concentrating on everybody being treated the same as in, I believe, 40 hours, how you use your comp time, how you use your sick time and vacation time. Monthly group employee benefits updates. I think that's partly because when you're new, there's a lot of information thrown at you and it's really hard to absorb all that. And then you only find out about the updates when you need to use it. Then your memory starts to refresh when somebody explains it to you again. So was a recommendation for possibly doing monthly benefit updates, just reviewing something maybe briefly once a month. Centralized HR, I think we've seen this. Consistency in staff expectations. That was more an HHS. Management needs to follow through with discrepancies and issues. I think that's maybe a departmental thing that needs to be reviewed. And when people leave because of management, it needs to be addressed. And I think this could possibly be addressed with an exit interview not done by their managers. I think there'd be a little more truthfulness there. Do you still see yourself employed in 5 years? 98 comments, 41. The answer was yes. 35 times the answer was no, although I did not look at these statistics. I would say half of those 35 are going to retire in the next 5 to 7 years. So the answer was no, or because they're going to be retiring. And then 7 hope to be. And that's it.
Mr. Chair, would you like to entertain questions or guidance on that, or do you want to keep moving forward?
Well, we just go around the room real quick once, see if anyone has anything to say. Let's just do one.
This was a bigger one.
Yeah, it's kind of a big one.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get into too much of a back and forth so we can get through those other items. But so Ms. Gentis, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No, I read it all last night and that was good. I guess we really need to look at the health insurance and that's what we're going to do here. So That's what we need to do.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Cooey.
There's a lot here.
Mr. Cooey, just a second.
I thought you said SEEP.
The only thing that when you bring up management multiple times, that's very concerning, I would say, because Cheryl said, if you're going with an exit view with the manager that you don't necessarily like to work with, you're not going to get you're not going to see what's going on. And that's difficult. I would say we need to look at how we're managing people.
Mr. Burr?
Overall, I think this is, I consider it very positive. And the most positive thing, 90% of the employees feel that they're getting good communication from the managers. Just excellent.
Is that? Okay, Mr. C?
Yes, there's a lot to cover here. I think that that all of these topics probably could be discussed more in detail in another session, in another meeting where there are so many other things to cover. It's hard to get into a lot of the details today with such a long agenda. I think it's worthy of further discussion at a meeting where we can focus more on this whole topic. An excellent survey, very good.
Mr. Turk?
I think particularly when we get multiple issues raised in the comments, those are very instructive for us. The only caution I would give is for the data slides, be careful how you interpret the summary that's given. Just as a specific example, the 35% of people would recommend employment here. That doesn't mean 65% wouldn't. That's just the highest rated individual element of that data question. If you look at it, only 10, 11, 12% are not likely to recommend employment here. So the other ones are either neutral or they would to some degree recommend it. So it's actually quite a bit higher than that. If you, again, look at the whole data.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, and I was surprised. I thought people seem to like their employment here better than I feel like I hear or get the sense of sometimes. So it was nice. So thank you for putting this together and getting thoughts from folks. Was it sent to people without email, or only people with email got to fill this out? Okay, so this is only one subset of our employees then. Yeah.
We did get some without names or initials, and those we did not use, just possibly because of stacking the survey. I'm going to say there was probably 15 with no names or initials that are not in the survey, although I didn't see anything reviewing them that brought my attention to go, oh, we really should consider this, but yep.
And then were the comments, you know, sometimes you had numbers in front of the comments and other times you didn't. So were the ones that didn't have numbers, were those just one-offs, or did it take so many people saying the same thing for you to put it in the presentation?
I just did anything that was repeated at least 7 to 8 times. I put the numbers in. The rest of them were just very enlightening, worthy comments that were maybe mentioned twice, but it's still significant.
Okay, thank you. Sure. Sure, Langrick? Okay, so
comments are that other departments solicited beyond email and handed out written papers to those employees that would not. Thank you, Tom.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, Mr. Langrick, back to you then.
Okay, if we'll move on here to our next item, number 10, review comparison data on conversion to employee trust fund health insurance program. In here with the room today is Tammy Hendrickson, our payroll and benefits specialist as well. A few weeks ago, Tammy had provided me with this matrix here, which shows the different percentage. Is it on there? I'm not sharing. Thank you. Okay, this will make it there. There we go. So I'll kind of start and put things in context, Tammy, and then I'll kind of turn this over. So this is a comparison of our existing courts program in relation to the different ETF programs. Now, ETF programs are laid out here on the left column. You'll see a P12, P14, P16, P17. Those are the nomenclatures for the different programs. The 12 is, all these starting with teens are indications that they don't include a dental plan. ETF offers the same types of plans with dental included, and then it becomes a P2 and a P4 and a P6 and a P7 and so on. So the difference that you're going to see with these different plans with P12, if you slide on over, you're going to see the premiums are large on this one because you'll see there's a single and family zero deductible. These are zero deductible plans. The 14 series, then you're looking at a single of 500 and 1,000. Then you're going to see 25 and 50, or I'm sorry, 250 and 500, and then 1,500 and 3,000. We also have the breakdown then of Dean and Quartz for the two plans because those are the two programs that we have here in Richland County would be accessible. And I can also kind of point out that with our current plan on the top in comparison, you also have to factor in that we have our HRA, and that's $1,000 single and $2,000 for a family that is on the end of the deductible charge. So with a case with a single person, the first, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, the first 2,000 would be to an employee, and then the county would cover the last 1,000 of that deductible gap. And I'll turn it over to yourself, Tammy, if you have additional comments here that you want to kind of talk about in the two comparisons, and then we'll kind of talk on the consideration points with our existing insurance company and broker through Wallace Cooper Elliott, and what we would have to consider that we're not going to have if we were to transition to an ETF, the balance on the exchange of benefits and things to gaps to make up. Go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, with Wallace Cooper and Elliott, as you can see, the single closer. I'm not a singer, I'm not a talker. Okay. So Wallace Cooper and Elliott, as you can see, a single premium is $756.34 and a family plan is $1654.30. And with them, Quartz is comprised of what used to be the old Unity, which is the UW system, and Gunderson. So we have access to both the UW system and the Gunderson system through Quartz. When we were with the state plan prior to 2017, we were on the P12 plan, and Quartz was the lowest cost plan at that point in time. We moved away from the state plan because they were talking about going self-funded. And here at Richland County, we historically overuse on our insurance premiums. We just received today from Quartz our usage for last year. Our premiums last year totaled $3,221,162. The total claims paid last year was $3,491.22, or a loss to Quartz of $268,961. And so that was a 108% overuse, or an 8% overuse. Last year, was it 38? 38% use we overused. So we got better. So it's a little better, but again, we're overusing on the premiums, and because we overuse on the premiums, that's why we are assessed so high with rates. So going back to the state plan, if we were to move back to the state plan, Quartz is not the cheapest plan with the state plan, it's Dean. So anybody with major medical issues that is currently with a Quartz or a UW doctor is now going to, if they want to keep with the cheaper plan, or the lower cost plan, I should say, which is Dean, they're going to have to shift doctors. And if they can't shift doctors because of whatever their medical condition is, then they're going to have to go through probably underwriting and the approval process to see if they can utilize, stay with the court system. So that's one of the hurdles that we have to look into. The other thing with, the one nice thing that people are liking with the state plan is you can choose Dean, you can choose Quartz, and then there's two other ones that are not as common out here to choose from. However, because Dean is the cheapest to the state, the employee is going to absorb that cost. So if you look at the P12 plan, so if we were to go back to that, employees on a single plan, they would pay $336.53 if they wanted to stay with Quartz. If they were a family, they would have to pay $837.09. to stay with Quartz versus going with Dean, which is $100.35 for a single plan or $246.63 for a family plan. So that's kind of how the state plan works, is they bid it out every single year. Whoever comes in as the cheapest, that's what our percentage for the county is going to be based off of, is that cheapest plan. And if the employee wants to go with one of the other plans, the employee absorbs that cost. The other thing that goes into the state plan is anybody enrolled in retirement does not necessarily mean that they are working full-time or part-time. If they're enrolled in Wisconsin Retirement System, which is part of employee trust funds, that employee is automatically eligible for retirement, health insurance, and life insurance. The employee for call-ins, like out to Pine Valley, if they are eligible for retirement, they're automatically eligible for health insurance, and then they would pay, per our breakdown, they would be paying 75% of the premium. Where we run into issues with that is employees such as myself. My husband works for a union or has an insurance that has a clause that states if your spouse works outside the home and has health insurance available to them, you have to take it, or you're not eligible to be on your spouse's insurance. So we have a number of call-ins who every year we'd have to sign a form saying that, yes, they are eligible for this insurance. And so then they would have to take our county's health insurance. So if you're working 12 hours a week because you're enrolled in retirement for whatever reason, you now have to take the county's health insurance, and you're going to have to pay that 75% cost, which, do I have that on here? It would be, I don't have it on here. Nope, I don't. So that's one of the other issues to consider with going back to the state plan. The other thing with going back to the state plan is there is a, what do you call it, Clint? Like an assessment fee for 3 years, a buyback fee?
Surcharge after they would do the actuarial work to find out what type of risk we'd be bringing into the program.
So that's 3 years, if I remember correctly?
It can stretch out to 3 years. It's typically at 2 years. It looks like they try to initiate a surcharge and try to step it down 50% going into the second year. And then based on your performance with claims with them, there may be an additional year, I think, that's added on.
So currently we've got 254 out of 374 employees that are eligible for, that are working full and part-time. Of that, only 197 of them have taken the health insurance. So 57 of them have not taken any type of health insurance. They've taken it through their spouse. If we were to go back to the state plan, we're going to have a minimum of another 39 employees that are call-in that are eligible for the health insurance. So again, that's going to be more cost to the county. Those are the main key points.
Thank you, Tammy. To just kind of dovetail on some of those, so we start looking at the financial aspects on it. Looking at the Dean plan for P17 in comparison to ours, there is indicators that yes, there might be a reduced premium expenses that we would have. Additional questions, though, that I do have out to ETF is in regards to the surcharge and understanding what the surcharge would be. I've asked if the actuarial work can be done, of course, prior to us committing to it, so we know what those expenses would be on the front end, as well as what information they would need to conduct their actuarial works, and to see also if there's trends on what other counties, what their surcharges have been transitioning into it. And then also the other aspect that is a benefit to us is going to be understanding the historical trends. We know that this coming into this last year, I think we had a 15 or a 16% increase. It's coming out post-pandemic, and then understanding, though, that even the year before that, I think we were able to negotiate a lower premium increase in understanding to try to gauge what our future costs are going to be compared to what ETF, and to try to balance those out. So the variables that we have to understand is for financially is going to be, what's the surcharge, add to our gap that may exist, understand what projected increases, understand our project, for our projected costs, we may have more enrollments, which is a good thing if from an employee perspective on having access to benefits, but then as an employer, we're going to have to factor in the additional costs for having more premium payments. We're gonna have to fill a gap administratively for some of the help that Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott would provide to us, because ETF does not operate with brokers. You work with them directly. So there, we would lose some Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott support on some of our employment laws, our COBRAs, our ACA guidance, along with the mandatory notifications. And then also we'd have to look at, and I think conversations we previously had with our exploring group was, if we had to do enrollment, we would need admin support. Because all the applications, family and single, are going to have to be hand enrolled through our system here. So we'd be looking at for departments to provide us admin support during the enrollment period to get everybody clocked in. So those are the different variables and such that we're reaching out for, so we can understand variables, so we can understand cost, so we can come forward with a recommendation with the different options on what it might look like again to rejoin with ETF. Any other comments that you had, Tammy?
The customer service with Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott has been fantastic. A lot of, when we were with the state plan, employees weren't getting the support that they were hoping for, so they would come in and ask me how to work through various situations that they had. With Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott, they have taken on a tremendous amount of that work. With Richland, when Richland Center was really struggling with the billing, they really stepped up to the plate and helped employees work through getting all that billing straightened out when Richland Center was going through that difficult time. And we wouldn't have that kind of customer service with the state. They just don't have the people to do that. So that was one of the big things with Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott, is they've really stepped up to the plate and really supported us, and has really supported the employees and helped them work through situations.
Okay, let's just go. It's another big issue, so let's just go one by one, see if anyone has comments. So Ms. Luck, go ahead.
So I'm assuming this surcharge is them evaluating how much usage, like you talk about our overusage, we pay, they're paying out more than we're paying them. But once we're in it in a couple of years, then it just, after 2 or 3 years, then it would just be whatever the rate is they do for the entire state. Is that correct?
Not for the entire state. Each county is issued an amount of what it would cost for to be a part of it. So I think we kind of get pooled in statistics and demographics with other ETF employers within Richland County.
So potentially our overusage could continue to penalize us on
Correct.
the state plan.
Correct.
Because I was thinking that that would take care of that issue.
No.
Well, with an actuarial perspective, though, Richland Center that participates in ETF, and I don't know if any of the school districts
The
do.
schools do.
So we would kind of be grouped for
So it might dilute
premium
out,
charge-wise with those.
assuming they aren't also overusing all of them.
I'm not quite sure how they come out with, I just know that I just go out there and I find out what our rates are and
Right.
just extract them. I don't know how they
Okay.
come up with them.
Because I'm on the state plan as a retired, I'm not retired, but I can do COBRA indefinitely. So I've been paying this premium.
So my comparison is we get compared to the city a lot, because the city, they have what is viewed as a much better plan than ours, but they don't overuse on their plan. Whereas we overuse and have always overused on our plan. And that's what hurts us, is we overuse on our plan. And so that's why we always get stuck with the higher premiums and, a higher deductible, because we're trying to lower our premiums so that way it's affordable to the employees. We've got all these different factors that are getting rolled into it. And the main fact that we overuse on our premiums, that's what hurts us the most.
So having more people in our group, having people who don't overuse could help us.
In all the years I've been here, we've never underspent.
Right, but didn't you just say we would be put in the same pool with
We were
the
with
school
the state
district
plan
and the
until
city?
2017.
Right.
And even when we were with the state plan, we always overused.
And did you get charged more every
Mhm.
year then?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Seat, you have anything?
Yes, two things. One is, and maybe Tammy can answer this. I believe that because we dropped out of the state plan, we are now penalized with that 2 or 3 year surcharge, which we would not otherwise be involved with. Tammy can answer that. Then I have a second comment before she answers. It sounds to me like there appears to be the possibility of a significant administrative burden for the staff here for the county employees. Thank you.
Don, yes, we would have that surcharge for at least 3 years from the way it was explained to us last year when we were researching this. And as far as the administrative burden, when we moved away from the state plan to Wallace Cooper and Elliott took on the task of taking all the employee data and their family data and entering it into their system. The state will not do that. We will have to manually enter that ourselves. And I want to say we've got over 1,200 bodies on our health insurance, if I'm thinking correctly from the last time I checked, but it's been a while. So it would take a long time to get all those entered in, because the plan is to enter this in online. You have to sit there and deal with each person individually and answer the questions that are on the form individually for each person. So it would be very time consuming to enter them back in.
That's a one-time thing though, right?
Correct.
Mr. Turk?
Just looking in broad terms at the things here, it appears that considering any change is going to have a considerable extra cost to the county. I'm wondering is there an in-between option of perhaps increasing what the county pays towards the out-of-pocket right now? Staying with the plan, instead of 1,000, the county takes 2,000. What would the financial impact of that be versus switching to a whole different plan?
Okay, I don't have anything. Ms. Gentis?
I just quickly need an answer. Okay. The state plan is Dean and Quartz on here,
Dean,
right?
Quartz, and there's 2 others.
Okay, so if they go to Dean, they have to change their doctor. If they go to Quartz, be just like they are now.
Right, but they'd be paying more.
But they pay more.
Yes.
Okay. And then it would be the UW Richland, 2 schools in the city, for sure. And we were with them before. And so did their rates go up because we were with them? Do you know?
The actuarial work done by ETF Supervisor Gentis is beyond what gets communicated to us. But the numbers are established for the county specifically. So it's going to be our claim experiences that they're going to be estimating for folks in this area. But then they also have to factor in the cost of medical cares out in this area and trying to guess where people are lining up. So that's kind of how I visualize where they're arriving at their numbers.
Okay, Mr. Brewer?
I know that anytime you're considering health insurance, numbers really the controlling factor. In other words, if you can get the larger your group, better your premium should be. And the employee trust fund state plan always seemed more attractive to me because it encompasses larger numbers. But we're lumped in with all Richland County users, ETF users. Once again, our numbers work against us. In other words, we're small, but we pay more. And so that's the comment on the size of the group. So I would see no advantage to switching unless we really get the advantage of being considered in a larger population. The second thing is, I know that Wallace Cooper Elliott has done great work for us, and the employees, I think, like working with them. They're very helpful. But when we talked to another county, Clint, and what was our premium increase this year?
For us going to this year, I think it was
16%.
16%. And the other county mentioned, well, yeah, we really would have got hit with a large increase, but luckily we had that stop loss or stop gap, I don't know what they called it.
Stopgap insurance.
Well, that froze them at, their increase would have been much larger, but they only had to pay a 6% increase, I think, or something.
probably
Why in the world didn't we have that?
a multiple year agreement with an insurance company where they had it capped on how much any annual increase could be.
We should have had that in force, I think, but hindsight is 2020. But I wonder if Wallace Cooper, Elliott, did they drop the ball and not offer that, or did we?
I thought we were locked in the first 2 years. I thought there was a max that, regardless of what our premiums versus what our usage was.
Because we were new users?
Yes.
Okay, maybe our lock-in ended this year.
Yep.
So it shot up to 16%. Is that right, Clint?
I would have to look back on it. Since I've been here, we've been doing like 1-year renewals underneath the mindset that we're going to be evaluating whether or not we're going to go back on the ETF plan.
Because I can see him, Sheriff Porter's been waving his hand back there. Sean, could you call on him?
Sure. Come on up.
I just had a couple comments on this. Obviously, it's a huge decision for the county to make to switch insurance. One of them is that the surcharge is for large claims only. There's no guarantee there will be a surcharge. Probably will be, but no guarantee. And the other thing is that, like, I just want to say is we did our own survey similar to what the county did just within our department. And one of the big resounding things, no shock, was insurance. But I know just as in general, the county employees are unhappy with insurance. And a lot of them have been since we switched with Wallace Cooper and Elliott. I have no doubt that their customer service is fantastic, but I wouldn't know because I really quit using the insurance after we switched to it. I mean, I avoid going to the doctor in general. I know a lot of our employees try to avoid the doctor, and that's maybe not a condition we want to have in the county.
Okay,
It is
so
expensive to go to the doctor anymore, especially when you got to absorb the first 2,000.
I think a lot of us in this country experience that same feeling, whether we're working for the county. I know I experienced that feeling myself, but thanks for all the work you're doing on this and letting us throw in our 2 cents and our questions, and we'll look forward to a future recommendation on that one. So we can keep moving on.
Item number 11, debt service and impacts and consideration of the
When do
radio.
we have to make?
Richland County Law Enforcement Judicial Committee is approaching their decision point on a radio tower project. Proposals have been received, and the committee is working with a consultant, True North Consulting Group, on evaluating the 5 proposals received from 2 vendors. The committee is anticipating to bring recommendation on a vendor and a project design concept to the county board within the next few months. 5 concept proposals on the table range from a cost of $5.3 to $10.97 million in construction and equipment, with a likely proposal for funding coming at $7.5 to a $13 million range. Administration will continue to stress consideration for ongoing operational costs that will fall on operational levy, and like our decision with the skid steer that you're going to come back, that's going to come back. I'm going to say that again, that we have to keep that in mind of our debt service bucket versus our operational buckets to make sure we understand that there are 2 different types of buckets there. In support of this initiative, the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee will be asked to fund the project through bonding. This will require future action by the Finance and Personnel Committee to recommend an authorization resolution to the county board to allow future borrowing through bonding of an up to not to exceed amount. Richland County will have to adopt a resolution by a 3/4 majority vote in order to undertake the borrowing and raise the debt service levy in Richland County properties. To understand how this impacts our current debt service, Richland County's debt outstanding currently is $2,950,000. Sorry, we're at 200 after the $2,955,000. Thank you. Payments made in March 1st. We still have an outstanding $21,865,000. Our debt limit, based on an estimate of a 5%. EV is 67 million and change. This equates to a percentage of our debt limit use of about 32.44 after March. If we consider the 2 different bonding projects on a range again of about 7.5 to 10 million is just reference points, not saying what's going to come forward, but as reference points. If we were to move forward with a 7.5 million, That's going to impact our percentage rate of the legal limit of about 43 to about 43%. If we were to move forward with a $10 million borrowing, we're going to be at about 47.27 of our legal limit. Understanding how these potential increases will impact our millage rate property tax statements depends on additional decisions on debt structure, how we structure that debt, and then also future use of short-term loan financing. So I can't really tell you how it's going to impact those two things until we make those other decisions in tandem with it. In addition, administration will be working with MIS and Sheriff's Office to ensure that future impacts associated with operational costs are included in our 5-year financial planning matrix. And I believe we received also our estimates through Mike on what the projects look like to support that. We'll have that included in the 5-year financial plan. No actions needed on this one. I would defer to yourself, Mr. Chair, if you want to discuss this one or if you'd like to move on.
I think you can keep moving on.
Okay. Items.
By eyes in the room. Yeah, I think we can save questions for the end for all these if you just want to walk through them.
Sounds good.
That seems like a good idea.
Status on financial planning, same as status on capital planning. Right now, I'm reaching out to departments to schedule individual meetings with department heads to make sure information received back is being put on the tracker appropriately, and we're covering the different aspects, and what we're gathering our end is matching intentions of what's being sent on their end. So I look forward on Thursday to hopefully have all meetings scheduled, and then coming back to you folks in a new capacity underneath a standing committee assignment in May with the initial presentations on what those two plans look like. Purchasing cards, status on that is we do have a draft policy which is attached in the folder. Administration has received the purchasing cards. I think we have them stored in the vault. We have training now scheduled. Assistant Dahl has us lined up for 2 o'clock on Friday for administrators. So 4 of us will be educated on how to administer the program on Friday. Looking to reach out to departments on the 14th to firm up what the draft policy is going to look like, what the card holder consent forms are going to look like, and then getting that hopefully up here in the next couple weeks. Administrative guidance on mandatory passwords and updates on county servers and AS400. As the administrator, I'm anticipating giving guidance to departments on requiring a minimum of biannual password changes on all computers, systems, servers in the AS400 system within county control. This will be discussed at the department head to see if there's any reasons on why we can't execute that, and then we'll initiate that. Coming back to you folks at some point in time with a computer user policy update, but at the forefront to get it moving, it'll probably arrive at guidance being given out from the administrator. There's a report here also included on the Supreme Court decision of Brown County versus Brown County taxpayers. The bottom line on this element, I'll spare you from reading through all of it, is that they came back with a decision that says that your sales tax does not have to offset dollar for dollar against levy tax. It's kind of viewed as being specific to a project. So if you're using your tax dollars to, say, like a road construction project or something like that, it's considered it's considered a reduction to that specific item. It doesn't impact your total operational levy. Status on tax deed property. On April 7th, administration will be recommending to the property committee to put a resolution together for county board to take the parcel number 276-2100-0421, which is at Jefferson Street property. And much like we did with the First Street property, I'm going to be recommending the property committee recommends to you folks to consider selling it to the city for $1. The city has funds available to raise this property, clean it up, and then to try to get it on the market with a potential rezoning to a multiple family unit to make it prim and tidy and get it back on the tax roll at a higher tax base. That leads us to 18, Mr. Chair, discussion of possible action on reported items. If there's any guidance questions that are germane to these reported items.
Okay, so let's try to limit our discussion here to items number 11 through 17. And let's just go around once again and see if folks have any comments. Mr. Brewer, do you have any?
Really worry about our total indebtedness. I know we need the tower system. Hope that, I still hold out hope that the current people who own towers in the county will do something for us. Let us use those towers. My bus route, I think I passed five new towers sticking up out of the landscape. I don't object to the sight of them, but thinking, why in heck do we need more towers if these might do the job? So I know that the proposals, there's quite a difference, Clint, between I think 5 million or 4 point whatever up to 13. I know that those all involve how much saturation do we get or coverage, I think, and it's probably incumbent on the number of towers. So
Can I make a comment?
we really got to watch what we do there and keep our indebtedness at. Just can't see us going to our, what, 67 million we can borrow according to 5% of our.
About 50.
We can go up to 100%. We're below our 50%
Yes,
limit. Again,
yes.
and in speaking with Carol Worth, there's not, from a bond purchaser perspective, they're less worried about a 50% threshold more than they're going to be concerned on your ability to demonstrate that you can pay the bonds back, is how she kind of described it. But again, it's kind of also though is it's going to affect bond rating because it's going to show we're over 50% capacity, and the other part of it is just politically we're halfway there on how much we can put against our house mortgage, if you will.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I just
It's your turn.
very
Go
quickly,
ahead.
I just
Yes.
want to address, so all of the proposals include using existing towers. The cost is if where they think there aren't towers that we need in order to get 95% coverage. So all the proposals include building at least one tower, but all of them also include using existing towers. But that is the big question of whether we can actually use those towers. Some of the towers may not have room because, they can only hold so much equipment. So those are the questions that are still unanswered as far as that goes, and I'll leave it at that. And we are going to be providing a kind of a frequently asked questions kind of document that is going to address many of these questions for everyone
Okay,
after Friday.
I see this as a real opportunity for our corporate partners to step forward and exercise their ability to be good citizens.
Agree.
Did you have any other comments on any of those
I
items?
don't. I think that the radio tower project, I would really appreciate it if supervisors could either attend or watch our LHIC meetings where we've gone into great detail and really talked about this thoroughly. And know that when whatever proposal we bring to you is going to have been thoroughly discussed with all of these concerns in the forefront of all of our discussions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seat.
Yes, I know that Melissa is really on top of this. It is a great concern, and one would hope that there are, besides corporate partners, that there may be some support from federal and state resources. I don't know whether that Build Back Better program is going to go through, but that certainly had promise for projects like this. And I'm hoping that we can reach out to externally to both corporate and federal and state government resources. There must be, this is a significant burden for counties, but I withhold any criticism of it or judgment with regard to the need for the project. I have a lot of confidence in Melissa's leadership, and I will be glad to attend that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turk.
The only thing I would add is this is a prime example of we waited too long, and now it's going to cost us. It's going to be painful, it's going to be difficult, but we're in a position now where we backed ourselves into a corner and we don't have a choice. got to move forward with it to ensure safety for our entire county.
Very true.
You're referring to interest rates, I presume.
No, he's talking about the radio tower.
Radio tower project is what I'm talking about, Don?
Yes, but in terms of bonding, interest rates are going up.
Well, that's only one factor. If we had addressed this multiple years ago when it was considered, overall costs would have been lower. We'd have been in a better position for maintenance. We have gotten to the point where we are stretched to a breaking point and must act.
The horse is out of the barn.
The entire system is well beyond end of life.
Yeah.
Let's put it that.
Yeah, I've been watching I've been catching up on your meetings. I was just actually in the middle of the March 21st one. So I'm getting there. It's pretty clear the need for it, but I think that one pager will be really helpful. And I think an interview on the radio will be helpful too, to help understand it.
I think it's 4 pages now.
Oh, sorry, 4 pager. I didn't mean to. I just ruined the
It started
expectations
out
of
at
that
1 page and it grew because and rightfully so, there's a lot of questions and we want everyone to understand and have answers to those critical questions.
Well, so thank you for doing that. I think where my mind goes to is less about, is the project worthy, and more about, is our increase in property tax going to be reasonable? Not in the current year, but in last year, we did roughly, it's a little hard to tell, we did a 14% increase in people's property taxes, the county portion of their property taxes in 1 year. And in hindsight, I look back on that and I think, we borrowed that $3 million. We did that on a 5-year note. That hit last year. Simultaneously, we borrowed the $1 million of short term, and that hit the same year. So we did 2 borrowings, and I don't know if we ever discussed that, talked about it, appreciated it. And so I think my input, my opinion for what it's worth this time, is I think we just need a more reasonable increase. I think we need to think about what increase should we ask or expect, and how can we use other sources, whether it's Pine Valley profits, short-term borrowing, ARPA money, cost sharing on the walkie-talkies or whatever they're called.
Subscriber equipment.
Y'all are talking about that, cost sharing on that, whatever, if there's other grants, or can we space, like you were saying, Mr. Langret, can we space out? It depends on the structure. Are we doing a 5-year note, a 10-year note? Are we going to be paying right away the first year? Are we going to wait 2 years like we did with Pine Valley? So my 2 cents is I just think it'd be nice to have somewhat of a plan that the finance committee can really think through this time. So, Ms. Gentis?
I have 4 things and I'll just mention them all and then whoever can answer me when I'm done, okay? One, when I read about the sales tax in the county's magazine, it talked about that it had a sunset time on the sales tax. And so immediately I thought, and it also said that took something off of the property because it made everybody, whoever buys anything, and there's a lot of people who don't own property that are not paying taxes toward the county. So I thought, well, why couldn't we look at the sales tax to be paying for a tower? That was what crossed my mind because it was brought it out and it had a sunset time that you have to do, if I understood it correctly. Number 2, I just wanted to know, because on the capital planning, which I think is good and you got it out there, I don't quite understand the committee structure working with the capital planning, because in the past, at the committees, we have really discussed what should be on that capital plan. And since we didn't get that and I put that on, there was some confusion with directors of how we're supposed to deal with that. And so I just want an opinion on that. Number 3, I also read, and you were talking about the cyber thing and changing the password, that we have the wrong emails, that ours should be ending with .gov because our .us is no longer safe, and that they went into detail about that. And I don't know whether we're looking into that. That was explained. And number 4, I would like to know if our county attorney, or if we can get through more tax deed much quicker, because I think there's a lot of property that needs to be addressed. That's my 4.
I've lost track. What was the first one again? I apologize.
About sales tax being used for the tower and it with the sunset and it taxes more.
The first part of it, I can investigate to see how we can initiate it. I know we're limited as a county on how we can impose sales tax versus a municipality, but it's something we can come back around and look on. The other part of this too is, yes, if you're imposing sales tax, then that broadens your range on who's actually paying for your projects, of people coming in and engaging in commerce and all those things. There is petitions at a state level too. Wisconsin Counties Association is looking more and more on behalf of counties, I think, to petition more access to local sales tax versus just solely relying on property tax. So at a state level, that's also being considered. In regards to the capital projects, my intentions were to bring it through departments to finance and personnel with capital and with financial planning, and to have it brought before what's going to be the finance and personnel committee on that. Doesn't mean that other committees aren't going to be aware of what's going on, but that's how I kind of seen it marching forward. With the cybersecurity, no actions have been taken, but it's certainly something we can start looking into as a .gov versus a .us. I don't know the implications on that. I would be deferring heavily to MIS to understand that transition. With the tax deed process, it is cumbersome, and I can let Treasurer Even kind of divulge what he has learned in his tenure here.
So with the tax, So with the tax deed process, it first begins with the appetite of our attorney to pursue these. And it is my understanding our prior corp counsel might not have had the largest appetite for pursuing tax deeds. So that has resulted in a significant backlog, which we are well aware of. However, once we determine that we want to move, it first begins with a title search through the title company. There were a number of requests put in for parcels to the title company prior to Julie Keller retiring. I received those title reports on February 2nd. So there is a significant amount of time for these title companies to do the legwork for us to even begin the process. And I will be frank with you, we are not on the highest of the priority list for the title companies to do this work. When it comes to revenue, these are private businesses. The way the real estate market is right now, their priority is land transfers. That's where the bottom dollar is. So we kind of get shuffled to we'll get to it when we can get to it pile. It's not the most satisfying answer, but that's the reality of the situation. Once we get that title report, the attorney Wendell or corp counsel does their homework on it. They give me recommendations on who to send these certified letters to. The majority of the time with the parcels we have now are people that abandoned it, and quite frankly, they do not want to be found. But we still have to follow state statute and our due diligence to provide notice to them. So for example, I know the motel out on Highway 14 is a hot topic, especially now that we've acquired a nice tire collection. Treasurer Keller had begun sending certified mailings out prior to my appointment or my approval at the board meeting in August. And each time that those came back undeliverable, you reach out to corp counsel. They do more research to try and locate these people. We resend out certifieds. It got to the point when I was finally sworn in October, that we finally had reached the end of the rope on the certified mailings. So at this situation, we're talking months of trying to locate the landowners, the people who have interest, to provide proper notification. In this particular situation, it took a back burner as I tried to learn how to do the treasurer's job. So our office with a brand new treasurer, brand new property lister, processed and created 20,000 tax bills without error and sent them out. That took priority at the time for tax deeds. So once we got back on the horse with that, the next step is to publish it. In this case, the Observer, it has to run for 3 weeks. So 21 days, essentially, 3 publications of the Observer. Following that third publication, it has to wait 90 days in a redemption period for the owner to come back and pay off their amount due. So currently, as we sit, For example, the motel will come due for the redemption period on May 29th. If that is, it's the last Wednesday of May I have on my calendar. Following that, Attorney Window will bring the tax deed forward to Property Committee for approval to send to County Board to take on tax deed. So we're looking at the end of June that we would actually take ownership of that property. So you're looking at a process that started back in August. We're coming full circle nearly a year later, 10 months, that the county is actually taking possession of it. And that's all bound by a state statute. If we're able to get a certified mailing out to somebody and they send it back right away saying, yes, we acknowledge we received this notice, it moves things a heck of a lot quicker. But there's, depending on the situation, and not one is similar to the next, it could take a year or more to get this. For example, the Crook property that you guys approved to write off for the 2009 taxes is an example of a property where previous corp counsel, to my understanding, was not interested in taking it. So then once we had gotten to that point, it just takes that much time to restart the process to get us to where we are now. So yes, I'm with you. It'd be great to move these along, but unfortunately, by state statute, there is a process and a time frame that dictates this.
Thank you. I'm assuming our corp council is now more in favor of this because I feel that this is all part of our economic development and having nicer housing and places. And so hopefully that's all part of our strategic plan.
In my experiences with Attorney Wendell, he's been very, very responsive with my correspondence with him. So.
Okay, Mr. Cooey, it's finally your turn.
Yeah, well, everybody's pretty much touched on what I was thinking, I guess. So it's good to go last in some cases. I would like to acknowledge Dave though, because I agree. I mean, we can't continually just push it off, and all of us on this board in the last 4 or 5 years or 6 years have worked really good together to try to get caught up. And I think we've done a really good job. And I just hats off to everybody for that, because it took all of us to get to where we're at today. And we're not where we need to be probably, but I think we're going in the right direction. So thanks to everybody for that.
Okay, thanks for those comments. And any action anyone wants to take? Okay, let's move on then to agenda item number 20, priorities and goals for the administrator. See, I'm listed here as the responsible one, which was a great reminder to me that I needed to follow up on our March 18th action, which was that we were going to bring the administrator's goals for the 3rd year back. So, and actually publicly approve those and share those with everyone. So per the employment agreement between Richland County and Mr. Langrek, goals for each year are to be defined in writing. And the goals are shown in the attachment. And what I did is I tracked changes. I had my notes from that meeting where in closed session, we went through and made recommended changes. We talked those over with Mr. Langrek and we got agreement about all of the changes. So those changes are tracked in the attachment. And then I also, as I was going through, there were some formatting changes that we caught. And then I just went through methodically and made sure everything, it looked like A, B, C, D, E on all of them. And I fixed punctuation and removed first person language, just little minor issues, but I tracked it all just to make sure that it would be okay with this committee before it got approved. I'm just looking for a motion to approve that.
I so move.
Okay, motion by C. Second by Brewer. Any discussion?
I read them all, that you got everything.
Okay. Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those say no. All right, that motion carries. You've got your 3rd year goals officially adopted. Everyone can see them now. Okay, so that takes us, I'm going to actually skip 21 and just ask Mr. Langrek first regarding item number 22. Do you want the Finance and Personnel Committee to meet before the organizational meeting on April 19th?
Don't think so. I think we'll be good to go.
Okay, so this is it. So for this term, I think we will be adjourning to an indefinite date. No, we don't know what the makeup of this committee is going to be, of course. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone. I've spent a lot of time with all of you over the past 2 years, more than some of you probably wanted, I know. But I feel like I've gotten to know folks a lot better than I did 2 years ago. So I just wanted to say just something individual about each person. Mark, I really appreciated your to-the-point style. We need that. You were the yin, and sometimes Don was the yang of this committee. And he was really good at exploring the intricacies of an issue. He's got a lot of history, too, that's very valuable to us. Dave, I really appreciated your well-formulated and spoken opinions. They really are there when it counts. Linda, I think your questions are really good because they help us to better explain issues. So they really force us to make sure that we're explaining things simply so that people can understand. Usually things aren't simple. So Melissa, I really appreciated your courage to share honest opinions. Sometimes we just need that out there sometimes to keep us moving. And Marty, I really want to thank you for the opportunity, basically giving me permission to be chair of this committee. I know it's something that traditionally, well, at least in my experience, Janetta was the chair of this. She was the chair of the board. She was the chair of finance. And without you, I asked you if I could do this, and you said yes. And I appreciate you letting me do it. Sometimes I wondered if I made the right decision by asking you that, but I did learn a lot. I also want to say just a couple other things to other people who supported this committee. Clint, you know, my husband tells me sometimes I'm really good at criticizing, and it's kind of a fault of mine, but you handle criticism with grace. Every time I've had criticism, and of course all of us do, but I really appreciate how gracefully you handle all that. The MIS staff, I know Mr. Cooey's here today from MIS, but the other two as well, they expanded the scope of their work greatly because of this committee. Getting meeting materials up online, not just putting them in our iPads, figuring out this WebEx thing, recording the meetings, putting the videos up. You all have done an amazing job. And I really appreciate department heads sitting through these meetings, the patience it takes and the courage it takes to bring issues to us when it's not always easy. You're usually in the hot seat. Sometimes I'm in the hot seat. I was past couple of county board meetings. It's not easy. So I really appreciate all of that. So with that, I don't think we need to talk about agenda item number 21 because we don't know the makeup of this committee, and I'm just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Before we do, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I just want to express thanks to you as well for your leadership and your service, diving into this head first, and you set the bar very high for the next person who sits in that chair.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, excellent job.
Thanks, folks. All right, does anyone want to adjourn this fun? Okay, motion by
I'll
Cooley,
second it.
second by Gentis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.